Alright, what's up everybody? I'm making a part 3 to the my addiction series titled Fentanyl Took My Soul, part 3. I had a part 3 up, but I took it down because I realized I rushed through a lot of stuff. I'm still new to this internet YouTube stuff, and I'm like I said, like I've been saying, my main message really is just to get the message out to the youth that addiction does not discriminate. And what they say in the rooms about it being a progressive disease is very factual, and something that I've unfortunately had to come to learn through my life experiences. And I'm trying to get the message out there that no, everybody laughs at the drug addicts that we see when we're coming up, especially if you're getting money or whatever. And whole time though, like most of these kids that are serving the fiends, laughing at the fiends, they're taking perks. And nowadays most of the perks are fentanyl, so they're taking the fentanyl, they're laughing at the fiends that they're serving the fentanyl, and they don't even know. I mean, these kids are just so not God, like coming on. Even my generation, like our parents were strung out on drugs, and it's just even worse now. But we weren't guided correctly, and a lot of people that are in the streets end up using their drugs. And for the people that are already past that point and in the midst of addiction, I'm trying to show proof that change is possible. I'm clean. I'm on my way to work right now. I'm raising my son, my 10-month-old son, with his baby mom. We're trying to make it work best we can. I'm not trying to, I'm gonna make it work, by all means. I will take care of my family. I am taking care of my family. And 5 years ago, if you would have told me that I didn't see the light, I really didn't. And that's why I'm doing this, to show y'all that there is a light at the end if you really want it, but you gotta put the work in for it. Alright, so part 3. So I graduated from taking the perks to doing dope. And once my dope habit got so bad, I started burning on my sales, and I really didn't have, and I wasn't making money like I was used to have coming in, and I was burning people. I was doing shit that was uncharacteristic of me. And because like coming up before my addiction got out of control, like I really really stood on like that I was a good businessman, and I would rather make $1 from somebody 100 times than make $20 one time by burning somebody. It just never made sense to me. And I would stand on my consistency. Any time of the day or night you called me, I would answer. And with addiction, that's just slowly started to go out the window. And from it just went into, like, I just lost control of the trap. And I fucked up my money, and one too many times. And instead of paying the dude back, I burned him. I burned my plug. And so we're beefing. And I'm like, this is what I'm saying when I said I left a lot of stuff out. So like, I'm at this point I don't really have any income coming in, so I'm doing crazy stuff. I'm robbing drug dealers, because like I said in the last video, like, I never felt right about stealing from my loved ones, even in the midst of my addiction. It's not something I did. People around me were doing it, and it would just make me sick. Not to say that I'm better than anybody, but it's just like something I just, because growing up, my mother was a bad drug addict, so me and my dad was super tight. And I was living with him when my addiction went bad, and I just felt wrong about taking from him. So what I would do is I would go out and take from the people who, you know, were out doing wrong. To me, I would justify it by they were putting themselves out there. And I've never been a tough guy. I really don't even like conflict. I don't. I'd rather laugh with you than fight with you. But, when you're in addiction, desperate measures, you do crazy, stupid shit. And I mean, I'm not even gonna lie, I was robbing drug dealers before I was strung out, like when I was selling drugs, like my competition and shit, but like, it just escalated to, like, I was doing dumb shit, robbing people that you don't want to rob, I mean, like I said, I was already doing dumb shit, but like, it just escalated it to a whole new level to where I just didn't care, and honestly, like, I had a death wish at the time, like, I never really made any attempts on my life, but like, I'm putting these hard drugs in my body. I'm robbing people who will blow my shit off at any chance they get. So everywhere I go, I'm looking over my shoulder every time I pull up to my house and I get out. I study. I know every car that lives in my neighborhood, and anytime there's a car parked out front of my house that doesn't belong there, like whether it's a neighbor having company over, I'm bugging. Like, I'm looking over my shoulder, and it's just a terrible time in my life. And this was like 2018 when my addiction really took off, and I was just wild. And like, man, the pain I caused my loved ones, I feel so bad. Like, the stress I put my dad through, and my sisters and my mom. Once my mom got herself together, I was putting them all through stress. Like, I know my dad told me that, like, there would be nights he would stay up all night, waiting for me to come home or whatever, because I was living at my dad. Well, in the beginning of my addiction, I was living at my dad's house. It didn't last very long, but by the time I was 20 years old, I've been living on my own since I was 20 years old. I mean, I've had a couple stints. I lived at my mom's for 6 months when I move out of state in the future, coming up in the future episodes, when I eventually end up moving down to Biloxi, Mississippi. I get out of Baltimore. I moved down there for a couple months. I lived with her for close to a year. But I'm not going to spoil the story, so I don't want to get into that. But yeah, for the most part, I've pretty much been on my own since 20, but like the ages of the beginning of my addiction when I was, and even when I wasn't living with my dad, I think that's when he was even stressing worse, because I wasn't communicating like that. I was just in my addiction, and I ended up meeting up. I was at a bar one night, and this girl I went to high school with, we're probably about 20 at this time, maybe just turned 21. We're either using fake IDs or we might have been legitimately in this bar. But I had some dope, and I didn't even know that this girl was in recovery. Like, when she was younger, she's a beautiful girl too. Like, I hope she's doing good now. I've done her wrong multiple times, and I'm going to talk about that in this. We were never in a relationship, but we were like running buddies. Fuck buddies, but yeah, we were never like in a relationship, but I done her, like, I left her in so many dangerous positions, and just like, as a little white girl, like, I've left her, and like, I'll get into the story in this video, but so I had no idea that when we were in high school, she had an older boyfriend who hung out with like a couple grades above us, and he was like a punk rocker type kid, and he was on dope, and he ended up getting her on dope. And I didn't even know that she moved to Florida for like a year after high school, and she had moved back. She moved down to Florida to get clean. She moved back, and I got her to relapse with me. Like, and I didn't know that. Like, I didn't even know she ever got high. I didn't know she was in recovery. But I remember we went out to my car, and like whatever, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I pulled out my little, I don't know, I think I reached over in the glove department, put out a piece of paper, folded it up, dumped the dope, because at the time I was snorting. Majority of my addiction I snorted. At the very end, I was an IV user, but for majority I snorted. And this girl even, like, she got me to shoot up a couple times, but it was just like so much work, and like I seen her struggling to find veins, and it was just like so much that it was just easier for me to just snort it. And in Baltimore, that's the main, because we have powder dope, so like a lot of people snort. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of people shoot, and especially the people that I looked up to, like that was getting money and stuff, that like they were snorters. Yeah, so like, I just snorted, and I liked the drip. It was stuff that associated with sniffing that I did like, but like, and the whole thing is retarded, and it just brings nothing but misery to you. It's not worth it. Like, there's nothing good about it. So when I say like there's stuff I like and stuff, like I'm talking about back during that time. Like, I'm like going back in time and talking about myself like as if I was in that moment. I'm not talking about right now or none of that. But so me and this girl, her name was Jules, and we're using and stuff. And I also have a running one. I really only ran with like 2 or 3 people that I was getting high with, because I try to keep it on the low. Even though even though I lived in Baltimore, it's a small city, and once the word gets out, the word gets out. And especially once you start burning the plugs, and you're known for getting money, you're known for being consistent, all that, you build this reputation up, and then you're not standing on, like, your whole characteristics just change up, and you're shady all of a sudden. Like, people know what's up, and then you start to look rough. So people knew what was up. But I thought I was hiding something. And it's kind of crazy because like my family didn't know. Like, everybody knew except for like my family, because like they knew that something was up with me, but they didn't know that I was using hard drugs. Like, they just thought I was partying a little too much, probably like figured I had some alcohol. Like, my mom knew I was an alcoholic because she was an alcoholic. And looking back, like even before my addiction to hard drugs, like I would drink, like when I would be out with all my friends partying, and we would all be drinking, and they would all be the ones to stop, and I would be like the one to, let's keep it going. I would always be the one to never want to stop. And it's funny, I remember I was talking to my mom about this a couple of days ago. Like, I was reminiscing, talking to her, because she's clean now. She has 6 years clean. And I was talking to her about like how I remember, even before my hard addiction, like when because I did end up becoming a hardcore alcoholic later, after I moved to Mississippi and stuff. But that's in the later series. But like I was telling her, I remember being the last, like I was always the last one to stop, even as a high school kid. And my mom told me, it's funny because my dad would party and stuff, from what I hear, and he still smokes pot to this day, but he's never been an addict. He's always been a hard working man, like hardest working man I know. Like, if I could be half the man and half the parent my dad was, I'll be very happy with that. And I know I have a good work ethic, and I have better stuff. I have stuff on the way. Good is coming. Good is already coming. My life is so much better than it used to be. But thanks to my higher power and me putting in the footwork. But my mom was telling. Sorry, I'm getting off track. Like, easy. I'm walking, and I'm walking around my job, so like, I'm not trying to sound like a weirdo, and like people probably looking at me like talking to myself or some shit. I don't know, but so like it's easy to get off track. And like I said, I'm new to this internet and talking into a video, telling my story. And it's kind of hard, like, because a lot of this stuff I haven't talked about. Like I have talked about it with people, but some of the stuff I haven't. But and this is different from talking to somebody that's in recovery in a closed room. This is for the public to see, like people I don't know. The internet is so judgmental, so it's not the easiest thing to do, but I'm doing this to try to get the message out there and try to help people. Just my main goal is to show that addiction does not discriminate. That's my main message for the youth. Sorry, back to the topic. So, and I was telling mom, like, yeah, I remember back, like, I would always be the last one to want to stop drinking. I never wanted the party to end. And she would laugh, and she was like, yeah, I remember, when me and your dad were together before her addiction took off. He would be like, can we please not be the first one to get there and not be the last one to leave? And, she just said it as like, yeah, we were just reminiscing together about how we could see our addictions before it ever got bad. Like we could see signs, So I'm gonna leave it off on this part. Like, so me and this one day, me and the girl Jules, we're going down to Cop one day. We're in East Baltimore. We're up like Montfort, to be specific. People that know about the Baltimore area, we were up the hill, and we get our stuff, Montfort and Biddle, to be exact, and we're coming back. We're coming back down Montfort towards North Avenue, and we take a right to go over to Milton, and like this is like the middle of the trenches. Like this is like some Kensington, North Philly looking, third world country looking shit, and this girl's car stalls out and she breaks down, and me and my homeboy Brad, who I was getting money with, the kid who actually like put me on the hard drugs, and well, I mean I put myself on, but he was there for it and made it very accessible. It was already accessible as Baltimore, but he just was easy to influence me, and but I was my own man, and I made my own decisions. But so he was in the back seat, I was in the front seat with her, and we got our shit, we're coming back, her car breaks down, and like I said, me and Jules wasn't in a relationship, but like we were fucking, and like she would come by and get me and drive me down to the hole, and I would, because in return I would buy her shit. She would be my ride. And this day specifically, her car breaks down, and me and Brad, by the way, rest in peace, Brad. I know we had a falling out before he passed. He just died like 2 months ago to a drug overdose. He was clean, he was looking good and everything. And due to respect to his mother, I'm not going to put his last name out there, but he was looking really good, and I talked to him the night before he died, because he got arrested, and I had lost respect for him because he was cooperating. He sold to an undercover, and he got right out, and then he got a burglary, and he still wasn't locked up, so I knew he was cooperating. I called him that night and I asked him, like, are you cooperating? And he just laughed. I hung up the phone or whatever, but that, I don't know if that was what caused him to get an OD. He couldn't live with himself. The only way he knew, I'm gonna make a whole video talking more on that, but so it's me and him. We just get out of the car after we get our shit, and we just leave her there in the middle of the jungle. Like, just leave her there. He calls his stepdad or something, or we call somebody else, and we get picked up and taken back to our neighborhood, and just left her there. Her dad ended up coming out and fixing her car or whatever. But I mean, that was no place for. And like at the time, we were still, where she was still fresh into her addiction, into her relapse, and so she looked good. She was a pretty, super small, petite, blonde hair white girl in East Baltimore, like the grimiest neighborhood in the city. Like, no joke, one of the top 5, no doubt. And when we just left her there, like, that's the things that drugs do. Like, they don't make you care. So I'm gonna leave this video on here, and the next episode, I'll pick up on this. I gotta get into work. I gotta start my shift. I would keep the video going, make it longer, but I'm gonna have to leave it on a cliffhanger. Peace out, y'all. Everybody be safe. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay out of the streets.